It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 547, that's 547 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record, where I hold in-depth conversations with today's leading experts in sales, marketing, and leadership 6 days a week. Coming up on the show today, on Monday, is my guest, Josh Elledge. Josh is the founder of upendPR and Chief Executive of SavingsAngel. And at Upend, they turn thought leaders into media celebrities. And you got to like that as somebody that would love to be a media celebrity. So in today's conversation, we're going to dive into the differences between PR and promotion, in actual fact, as well as how to use one as a tactic to build awareness. Now, if you'd like to see the show notes for this episode, go to andypaul.com/547. And if you like the show, it really helps out. If you subscribed and left a review for us, you can do that all with the podcast app on the phone you're using to listen to this podcast. Go ahead, hit pause for a second, or wait for you. Subscribe, leave a review, and then come right back and listen to the rest of the show. So, Josh Elledge, welcome to Accelerate.
Hey, thanks so much, Andy. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. So, I've got a standard open question for all my guests, and this question is, in your mind, what's the single biggest challenge facing salespeople today?
Well, I think it's getting out of our own way. And, where I know that just depending on what we do, it's so important to kind of adhere to a script, a system, because, we've scientifically calculated what works for all, a sales team. However, I think what customers, businesses, whomever your target audience is craving more than anything is just authenticity. And it's, can you be my advocate? Can you help me solve a problem? Can you be my guide in this purchase, in this purchasing decision process? And so, again, I think as an industry, I think the sales industry is doing much better than we did in the old school rules of, these, all these tricky closing techniques and,
Sure.
Just like all this old school kind of used car salesman kind of tactics. And I'm so grateful that we have evolved to this position. But I think we can go even more. I think we could go even further in developing our own brands as salespeople and really moving to a position of great authority and expertise where imagine that when you get, and I'd love to tell stories about this. Imagine when you get on the phone with prospects, they're almost like a little awestruck to talk with you because of who they know you to be. And that's the kind of work that we do.
Okay. All right, and we'll get to that. We at upendPR. That's sort of the challenge, I think, first of all, one is the premise that we've actually evolved that much as salespeople. Which
I'm assuming you can correct me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think that's an open question, and I think it's it's part of the reason why there are sales podcasts and literally hundreds of sales books published every year. It's not like there's things that are really new, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we maybe find better ways of expressing what we've known. I mean, I was reading a book just this morning that a friend of mine has written about sales. It, extremely well written, has a different way of sort of laying things out. But you go through, it's like, it's, again, nothing really new. But so it always sort of strikes me as why, if we had really evolved, we wouldn't be dealing with these sort of basic fundamental issues, right? Mm-hmm, so this whole idea that you started talking about authenticity, which another word about, we could say about being service-oriented, customer-centric.
Yeah.
We all know that that's important. The books have been written about it for, I think the first book about customer-centric selling was nearly 30 years ago. 25 years, Michael Bosworth. Yet, the theme, let's say, even of the book that my friend had written that I was reading this morning was, hey, part of the reason you're not being successful is the customer sees that you're more focused on yourself and what you're trying to accomplish than on what they're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Hey, that's been the basis of selling, for time immemorial, really, other than, retail sales of some sort, but in the business to business space. You can make the argument that always been the case, that's how you sell, right? It has to be about the prospect. So I worry more the opposite direction, that we're not evolving fast enough, that there's no sort of oral tradition or generational history that we acquire, partially as we're being raised as humans, to say, even in life in general, it's more about the other person than you. If you want to build a relationship, and you want to be effective at it, it's demonstrating an interest in someone else before yourself, being able to put yourself in their shoes, have the empathy. And makes me wonder that, hey, we're not teaching that enough as we're raising humans throughout our societies, because it still has to be retaught or taught for the first time when people come into the workforce.
All right.
No, there I go on my soapbox, but I can do that. This is my show, so I can do that. Yeah. So, all right. So tell us a little bit about you. You had mentioned what you work with companies. You have two companies. Right. One called SavingsAngel, one called upendPR. So tell us a little bit about each of those.
Yeah. So SavingsAngel I launched over 10 years ago and is completely out of necessity. So at the time, I was actually working in sales and marketing, worked for a network of attorneys, and was in a position where my income was very unstable. And so my wife and I had gone through a kind of a budget plan or spending plan, and trying to just be very, very safe with how we were spending our money. And we got to the line item for groceries. And I remember kind of turning over to her, and I'm like, how much do we spend at the grocery store? Maybe like $400 or $500 a month. And she laughed at me. She goes, are you kidding? We spend like $700-800 or more every single month to feed our family of 5. And I thought, that's crazy. That is a lot of money. And I thought, man, there's got to be a way that you can significantly cut a grocery bill. I mean, we've got technology. Certainly we can do this. And so I studied all the experts and found out that the best way to do this, I mean, really, if you want to cut your grocery bill in half, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either grow all your own food, and I know from experience that was just not realistic. I just was not going to be able to do that. The other way is that you have to take advantage of every discount that's available to you, incentives from the manufacturer, incentives from retailers, and you get them to work together. And so what I'm referring to from the manufacturer is they will give you significant savings in the form of coupons, and retailers will give you significant savings in the form of sales. And if you time both of them together, then you can get your groceries for pennies on the dollar. So we figured out some technology that would automate this process and put together a lot of data each week. And then we would essentially just created a membership site over at SavingsAngel, and we've done close to $6 million in sales as a result of being able to help good people cut their grocery bill in half over the past 10 years. And what's really interesting is that we've done next to no advertising. All we do is PR. So I would do a regular radio segment. I'd been started to get written up a bunch in the newspaper. So I started writing my own newspaper column, which then turned into a syndicated newspaper column, started doing TV, which then turned into a syndicated TV segment now in 75 cities, 2 to 4 times a month. I've all told, so I think I mentioned I write a syndicated newspaper column that's got 1.1 million readers. And so all told now I've been in the media over 1,500 times. And what's really nice is I just don't really have to work very hard in terms of exposure for SavingsAngel. Because I just kind of work in partnership with the media, and that gets kind of taken care of. So you would think, oh gosh, well, this sounds like a really great thing, invest more money into it. And so I started investing into PR firms thinking, well, if this is, if this much is good, imagine if I start outsourcing some of this stuff. And it was fascinating because every time I would do that, it just ended up being an abysmal failure. The work I did myself was pretty effective. But anytime I tried to pay somebody to outsource my brand, my product, it just didn't work out real well. And so I started working and doing a lot of pro bono work in our local startup community. We started in West Michigan, moved down to Orlando, Florida, and just really encouraged startups not to spend money in PR, but to learn the basics of how to do this themselves. And they started having success. I started doing workshops, started speaking. I have done some pretty big stage stuff, spoke at Social Media Marketing World in March on how to get massive media. And so reluctantly, just because of all of the people that I helped, they really kind of said, well, can I just hire you, or can I pay you instead, and you can help me out?
Right,
and so
which is slightly ironic, right?
Yeah, I know. And so it's like I reluctantly started what I consider to be an anti-PR firm. So that's why we call it upendPR. We're just, our success rate with our clients is just like, it's almost like, this industry of public relations has just been lagging so far behind. I think other areas of marketing, which I think has stayed, pretty current. And there's, just been so much cutting edge evolution in the space of marketing. But for whatever reason, publicity, it's just like they're playing on old school rules and they refuse to evolve. So it's like I feel like I have a moral imperative to change this, because I don't want other startups, and trust me, I've talked to lots of others, to pay out tens of thousands of dollars and have next to nothing to show for it, just because PR is generally built on this extract as many billable hours from your client as possible model.
With very low results. Yeah, I experimented with that myself on the release of one of my books, and it was an abysmal failure. Hired a PR firm that had some degree of reputation, and and literally nothing happened for I think $5,000. Ouch. Yeah.
And you think about like where else you could have put that $5,000 and what you could have got for it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We live in an age of Facebook ads where you could pretty much calculate, and because Facebook can calculate. I mean, it's like scientifically, you can make an investment of $1,000 and you hope that you'll make a return of maybe $1,100. And you can do that pretty consistently, once you get that dialed in pretty well. And so we kind of expect that we can do the same thing with PR. Now, the outcome really is a bit different. And if you're approaching PR I need a shot in the arm, I need some fast traffic so I can make some quick sales, then I don't think that that's a real good mindset to have, because it's not really designed that way.
First of all, so let me interrupt. So
yeah, please.
So it seems like a lot of people these days, they look at social and say, well, sharing is getting publicity. They really conflate the two. So tell people how they're different.
What, between sharing and publicity?
Yeah.
Well, so philosophically, the way I believe in as a business owner, first off, our number one job is to grow our business. I'm going to work my way back to that. So how do we do that? Well, I believe that, again, number one job is to grow your business, a la Michael Gerber. So how do you do that? Well, I believe that the two best ways to grow a company quickly, or very methodically and kind of a sure bet path, is to network with influencers, because influencers have the ability to wave their magic wand, put you in front of big audiences, and yes, you can have big launches. Okay, so network with influencers, because they and you do so in a way where they respect you. Number two is serve large audiences, and the more you give to audiences, the more they will say, man, I love that Andy guy. I got so much value. I feel like I want to reciprocate. I mean, if there's anybody I do business with in that space, I want to make sure it's him because of how much he's introduced me to. And so you've got this law of reciprocity kicking in. You've got the know, like, and trust. Of course, the more you give to people, the more time they want to spend with you, because they're like, oh my gosh, that was a great, that was instant value. I want more value from Andy. And so they keep tuning in, or they keep checking your blog, or they keep, looking forward to your email because you're giving them the goods. And this is a thing too that I think some marketers and entrepreneurs struggle with is they say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to give away what I've got behind my paywall, because if you want the really good stuff, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's kind of akin to imagining if you were in a Broadway musical and the Today Show calls and says, look, we want to have you on next week, Thursday, and we want you to perform, your kind of your hit song from your big, Broadway production. And you say, okay, we'll do that. But I'm going to kind of hold back a little bit because, well, this TV audience, they're not paying tickets.
Right.
They're not ticket holders.
We'll sing every other word.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll sing every other word. I love that. And that's kind of what we do when we say, well, I want to tease. Well, if you want the real good stuff, you're going to have to look on a page, page 112 of my new book, You Too Could Be a Winner, or something like that. You're not going to do that because we're just in this age, I think, I'm very much in the go-giver philosophy. It's just, give. And, people, not everybody, but enough people will like you enough that they'll say, well, look, obviously I'm not going to get everything, in reading, a 1,000 word page or 1,000 word article or a 20-minute podcast conversation. So I want a deeper dive. And that's, of course, then when they engage with you, and you keep your prices high because those people are pretty motivated. They know that you can bring them value based on based on all of the trust that you've built with them.
All right. So, all right, great answer, and we covered a lot of ground there. What are the inherent advantages of PR over, let's say, social sharing? Promoting through social. Whether it's organic or paid. I mean. Right. It seems like it's accomplishing different things. So it's, people are saying, look, you talk to marketing people, look, we're going to budget for all this various activity, right? Whether it's, social paid ads on social, SEO, SEM, PR, advertising, all the line items.
Sure.
So there's people have to weigh the various advantages, disadvantages. So to me, PR, oftentimes when I talk to companies that I work with, it's like, they just don't do it.
Right. And here's what they're missing is that the best way to work with influencers and to get their respect is to be an influencer yourself, without question. Either that or you're going to have to pay a lot of money. Mm-hmm. However, if you are a peer and you are an equal in terms of authority, then you just get access to do things like launches and exposure that you're just not going to get. So influencers and high authority people, like celebrities, are always talking about, their interactions with other celebrities. They're not talking about generally interactions with just every Tom, Dick,
people
and Harry.
Right.
Yeah. So get there, because what's going to happen is that you'll find that all of your work moving forward is just going to be more successful. I'll give you a great example. So let's say that somebody who's never done like nobody knows that person starts doing a Facebook ad campaign. All right, great. Here we go. Just, someone sitting in front of the webcam and, the same old routine, blah, 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 blah. We don't know them. So on its face, that person is not going to do as well as someone who is a known commodity. So Gary Vaynerchuk or whomever, you and I are in the podcasting world. Let's say Pat Flynn or John Lee Dumas or whatever. Sure. We see their ads. Steve Chu, I love him. Just like a big name in the podcasting entrepreneurial world. Listen, when they do a Facebook ad, and everybody knows who they are, do you think that they are paying as much per lead as somebody who has nobody knows? I mean, no way. They are getting a heck of a deal because they are respected and people like them already and they know them. And so if you want all of your work to work better, build yourself into a position of being an authority. And you know what? Is it going to take work? Is it going to take time? It absolutely will. But here's the thing. If you're not investing in that and you just say from day one, I'm going to be the sham wow guy, and that's all I'm going to do, you're never going to get there. So you're always going to be, it's like the hamster in the wheel. You're always going to be just having to work really, 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 really hard to acquire leads, to sell. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just be a thought leader and you just have this huge audience of people that just loves you. And then every time you launch a new product or service, everyone's clamoring to get a piece and talk about you. And, you have all these other partners that all love you. Well, can you get there? Absolutely. And is there a scientific path on how to get there? Absolutely. And I believe a lot of it comes down to building up your media authority. And by media authority, I mean both traditional and kind of digital influencer platforms. So, I mean, you want to work with all of the above. And if you're consistent about it, you know what? A year or two from now, again, you'll never have to worry about advertising ever again.
Yeah, well, it's sort of interesting you bring that up because maybe it's a generational split, but you see certain companies, certain individuals are trying to build their authority to gravitate purely to the digital, and then others that maybe doing the mix as you talk about digital, but also then keeping into the conventional. I mean, I know somebody who's blogged every workday for the last I don't know 8-9 years, and has built tremendous amount of authority and tremendous followings because of just blogging, which not everybody, but a lot of people at some point or another were saying, well, that's obsolete. And he's publishing,
you have to grind it out
on his platform. He's not on LinkedIn. He's not publishing the articles on LinkedIn. All those things, but it's the consistency and I think the conventional thing. There's sort of a question buried in here, but it's really getting your opinion is. And I think I know the answer, but you can't ignore the traditional sources you talked about. Radio, blog, so on.
Why would you? Yeah, it's like. In my mind, you want to serve audiences that where your ideal or target client is already pre-congregating. So maybe that is just, in front of kind of working with other YouTubers and you do a video together. Maybe it's bloggers, maybe it is industry stuff and it's only social or only digital. But, again, I can tell you from experience that traditional media sources are hungry. Like they need a huge army of experts to pull from. And so I just want to let you know it's relatively easy. And so you may as well go along the path of least resistance. And if you have a writer for, let's say, Forbes, and she has to write 2 articles a day. She's got so many words that she needs to churn out. She or he would much rather quote you and have you help her or him with that article so that, their job is easier. And you know what? You get benefit because you're quoted. And then, of course, when you get and this is really critical too. And if there's one skill, as we're talking about PR, that I think really separates. I just had a conversation with Michael Neal yesterday about this, in fact, and he was asking me some questions about this. And I said, look, the difference where, if you really want to separate yourself from other people that are experimenting with PR, what you do with your PR placements makes all the difference in the world. And here's why. When you get a placement in front of a new big audience, those people...
Define for the audience what you mean by placement so everybody understands.
Yeah, but I mean, you get quoted in Forbes.com or Inc. or Huffington Post.
So it's not necessarily you writing an article that gets picked up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a podcast interview, for example.
Sure.
So these people, I'll give you, so the person who's listening to me right now, you don't really know me yet. I mean, we're just at the beginnings of our relationship, unless you've, followed me in the consumer savings world, or maybe you've heard me elsewhere. So I'm grateful that we're at the beginning of our relationship. You're probably not ready to buy my stuff at this point. And I totally get that, and that's totally normal. All right. However, what I would recommend is if you do get a break and you do get, let's say you get quoted somewhere or you get an interview somewhere, the people who already know, like, and trust you, but maybe they haven't purchased yet. Okay, they're further along. I mean, I'm singing your music right now. I mean, this is, I know you know this better, way better than I do. But the people who already have a relationship with you, they could be persuaded to buy. And as you share with them all of these wins and all of this social proof that's going on, those are the people that if you're like, well, am I going to get ROI from me or from PR short term? Yes. You take all of your PR placements and you treat it like it's the most exciting thing ever. And you brag about it. You're like, oh my gosh, my company's, just getting recognized everywhere. Look, here's another one. Those people, there's a couple of things that are going on psychologically with your own people. Number one is they don't want to get left behind. And so they're like, well, gosh, all of these other people are really recognizing and praising Andy. I don't want to miss out on anything. And so I need to find out what's going on. I need to, why is he on fire? I mean, so I really need to dig in. So another thing that happens is that you are also validating them that they hitched their wagon to the right horse. So they are part of a movement that's happening. And so if you can, again, so what this means is, anytime you get a media placement, you're bragging about it via email, via social, on your website, you're getting logos on your website, you're going to find that your conversion rate's going to go up among your existing audience, and it's also going to go up among new people who visit you. And I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of websites where you go and it's just the front page has that row of all those amazing media logos where this company has been seen. It is absolutely going to increase your close rate if you have that.
Okay. And I agree. I mean, I think that I would look at my own activities and think, PR is dramatically underutilized in what we're doing, because I think there's like a playbook, right? And if you're a new company, you're getting started, you're a digital thought leader, sort of is the space I'm in is you go through and talk to all these people and you talk about the playbook and building your brand, and it oftentimes just doesn't include PR because people are such believers in the magic of social.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful. Listen, who I'm most grateful is the person who's listening to this. And this is like, oh my gosh, I've never heard this before. Because I know if I can get them to make some subtle changes in really truly investing in their authority. And look, I want to stress, this is not going to happen overnight. But again, if I can get you into a position where you have much higher authority 1 year from now, you are really going to look back on the activity you did this month and you're going to say, oh man, am I grateful I did that, because it has really paid off.
All right. Well, Josh, so tell people how they can find out more about you and connect with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you can Google me, Josh Elledge, JoshElledge. And, but I do have a gift that I can give to everybody. One platform that I'm a big fan of, and I think this will save you several $1,000s a month is really getting to know how to use Twitter for your PR purposes. And if you can really dial this in, you will see the power of being able to connect with anybody you like and getting quoted anywhere you like. But there are some things that you want to do. And so I've got a Twitter publicity mastery course. I normally sell it for $99. And Andy, I'd be happy to give anyone who's listening to this conversation to this length. You're the kind of person that I want to serve. And so you're welcome to have that for free. And so if you just go to...
Very generous.
Yeah. You just go to upendPR.com/Andy, and it will zero out the $99. You could have it for free. No, there's no big upsell or anything like that. It's just, please enjoy the content. The only thing I would ask is if you get value from it, just tweet me and let me know. And then I'll even retweet you to my 30-some thousand followers. It would be an honor to do that.
Very excellent. Well, Josh, that's a very generous offer. And thank you again for being generous with your time and knowledge today. Thank you for spending
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, thank you. And friends, thank you for spending this time with us today. Come back, join us again tomorrow for another great episode of Accelerate. So thanks again for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.